I started out in commercial real estate, so I spent about 10 years in the Washington, D.C. area. Well, I grew up there, but I spent about 10 years in commercial real estate there working for landlords. And started my own retail concept from an idea that I started with my girlfriend on eBay. Turned it into 5 stores in 3 states, and was doing great for 12 years. And then in '08, when the disaster happened, unfortunately, retail clothing never really picked back up. As you can see, even some of these big boxes have starting to fall to the wayside, and couldn't compete with the internet anymore. So found myself, looking to work for somebody after many years of doing my own thing, and here I am. So I've been with this company now for 4 years. One of the things I enjoy about this particular division, which is Mailbox, Print, and Ship, is that unlike retail, which I was in, or a true retailer, this particular industry, in addition to the obvious, which is you only work 5.5 days a week, we also are mainly a service industry. And the beauty of that is, unlike myself, I had to buy some clothing, sell the clothing. If the clothing didn't sell, I'd have to put it on sale. If it didn't sell then, I had to keep my fingers crossed it was in sale next season. If you own a restaurant, you have to buy the food. If the food doesn't sell, you have to throw it out or hopefully give it to someone out the back door, but basically there's a lot of money spent to make money. So with this particular industry, you're going to pay us an upfront fee to give you a turnkey store. And once we hand you the keys, other than a small amount of merchandise, you're really just offering services. So this is a service business where things like your mailboxes are 100% profit. Other than that, there's a few things, and it's paper and ink. So it really does make a big difference when you're looking at your bottom line, and these stores run on about a 65% profit margin. And that's a really nice margin. And, so that kind of gets us into the real estate and why real estate is really important. But before we get into the real estate arm, I just want to really tell you folks a little bit about the setup and how it. Hello, welcome. How are you? So how we start out is you give your $500 to fully refundable deposit to one of the salespeople, and once we have that, we create a file for you. Now, with that file, we send you over to our finance department. Now, for those of you who are interested in exploring our financing, the finance department will get a little bit of information from you, and then usually within 48 hours, we'll have a pre-qual back, or we'll have information on what you have to do in order to get the pre-qual. So, for example, we might tell you you got approved for $100,000, but you have to pay down this credit card $4,000 and this credit card $300. So we'll let you know exactly what you have to do in order to get your financing. So now, if you already have your own funding, or you're looking to use 401k money, or you're looking to use some money you have saved up, then in that case, what our finance department will do is they're going to go ahead and just confirm that you do in fact have the money to buy the store, and we call that proof of funds. So you could send them one bank statement showing $80,000, or you could send them a 401k and a bank statement showing a total of $150,000, whatever it is. We just would have to know that the money is there to open a store. Once that happens, then we will go ahead and assign you a leasing manager, and the leasing manager will contact you along with our site locator. And what they do is they are in-house, by the way. We don't hire an outside brokerage firms. And just to let you know why that's really critical with us.
Yeah, the reason it's so,
go ahead. The reason it's so critical that we have an in-house real estate department is because we're not just trying to put you anywhere we can to make a deal. Okay, now, I'm the general manager of the division, and what I try and let people know is that I currently have over 200 stores that we have open. Now, we're not a franchise. So this is your store. We don't look at what you're making every month. We don't take any royalties. We don't do any of that. This is your store. However, you can treat us like your corporate office for the life of your store. In other words, if there's a problem you're having, or if you need help, or if there's a vendor that's not getting back to you, or just information throughout the year, those are things we share and we talk about. Now, the reason I'm bringing that point up is because myself and the owner, we approve all the deals that go through real estate. And the last thing that I want is for somebody to be in a location that isn't a good location, and we'll get into the reasons why in a minute, or the rent is too high. Because what's going to happen? Myself and my assistant are going to be hearing from you all the time. I don't want to hear from you. Not that I don't like you, but if I'm not hearing from you, it means things are going well. If I'm hearing from you, it means there's problems. So what we want to do is I care about more than anything where you're going, because that is a big part of, your success. So myself and the owner really scrutinize the location. And what we do is once that real estate manager goes over your market area with you, he's going to call you up with the site locator, and he's going to say, okay, what area do you want to go in? What area do you want to not go in? How far is the furthest you will drive from home? Do you have any locations that you particularly are interested in? Do you have their number and we can give them a call, so on and so forth. So they're going to really get an idea of where you want to go, don't want to go. And of course, if there's already a particular location you have in mind, we're going to explore that. Now, a lot of people, what they do when they come to us is they've already talked to a couple landlords. And being that my background is in commercial real estate, I'm going to be very blunt with you and tell you that when it comes to a small space, we're talking 1,000 square foot here, your typical broker, believe it or not, I'm telling you from the, behind the scenes, you're not his top priority. And especially if it's somebody who's doing a startup. So if you call me and you are interested in opening up your first store ever, I'm going to give you to whoever the junior guy is that just started working in the office. And he's going to maybe call you after a week, or if you catch him, he's not taking you very seriously, because landlords really don't want to do business with startups because they're concerned about how successful is this person going to be, how much knowledge do they have, is this somebody I want to take a chance on? Because remember, they have to spend money just to open the door to let you in there. They have to pay a real estate commission. They might have had to get rid of the stuff that was in there from the old tenant. So there's thousands of dollars they're going to lay out before you even walk in that front door. So the reason I'm telling you that is what happens with us is when we call the landlord, they realize that the person we're representing is not only going to be properly trained, but we're going to oversee them. So now the landlord has a much bigger comfort level. Oh, okay, yeah, you guys are calling me. Sure, you guys got over 200 stores you've opened. You deal with these people throughout the life of their store. You properly train them. So now we're more like a franchise contacting the landlord as opposed to being just, Joe Blow calling them up and saying, yeah, I'm thinking about opening up a mailbox store and was wondering how much you guys want for rent over there. There's also a lot of things that we ask for when we negotiate a deal with a landlord. And one of the things, if any of you folks have worked on a commercial lease, they put all kinds of onerous language in there. They're going to try and put in language in your lease that could hold you responsible to replace the air conditioning unit on top of your store. Like, that's the kind of stuff they try and get away with. So I'm just giving you one example. Other examples are they might decide that they want to relocate you at their leisure anytime they want. So they could just come to you and say, hey, we're going to put you at the other end of the shopping center now. These are things you might have never picked up on. And that's just the tip of the iceberg with a couple examples. So we give them a full letter of intent It's and a 17-point exhibit work letter, which tells them that all the things that we want in the space. In other words, we wanted to have a handicapped bathroom. We wanted to have everything to code. We asked for the walls to be painted and the floor to be laid if it needs that. These are things we ask for. Now, sometimes they push back a little or they don't. Sometimes we get everything we ask for, other times we don't. But at the end of the day, we're going to present you. First, they'll present the letter of intent to myself and the owner. We review the economics. We review the space and the condition, things of that nature. And then we're going to go ahead and approve it. So I'm going to get into what we look for in a location in a minute. I just wanted to kind of give you folks just an outline of why it's so critical to have somebody representing you on your behalf. Do I have any questions with respect to anything we've discussed so far? No questions? Okay.
All that comes included with your package, right?
I'm sorry?
All of the things that you were talking about comes included with your package?
That's right, yeah. So you're basically going to make one payment. We have 3 different packages. We have a value package, which is $76.9, a standard package, $89.9, and then we have our premium, $127.9. But all 3 of those packages, you're getting a full store ready to open. We've even barcoded everything. It's all in your POS. The training is done, the real estate, the financing, all that is done. Now, the only thing is, because I want to be very transparent, is that there is a fee if you decide to go with the financing. Now, we do not finance you. We use a third party. But it's important to understand that we only work with 4 lenders for financing. So it's not like when you walk into a car dealership and they just send your information out to anybody who will hopefully approve it and give you a loan. Because startup money is very difficult to get. I mean, just so you know, folks, we have people who have had 30, 40-year relationships with their bank, and then they go in to get money for a startup, and the bank says no. And we've dealt with a lot of very upset people who think because they've had such a long relationship with their banks that that they would go ahead and approve it. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that it's just not something banks feel comfortable with. So we have 2 companies that do term loans. We have 1 company that does credit card financing, which isn't as bad as it sounds, and we can get into that on another as you move forward more. And then we have a HELOC, which is a home loan. We also have a way to borrow money from your 401k with a company who does it so you won't get taxed on it. But there is a fee involved with each of those. And that's because the company that we use charges the fee. And those fees range anywhere from about $2,500 on up, depending on how much money you're borrowing. So that would be the only, well, okay, and then, so I apologize to say that. The only other out-of-pocket expense that you definitely have to spend would be the landlord's first month's rent and a month's security. Okay, now, when you go into the finance department, as we told you, that's your first step before real estate, we're going to put together, we call it our financial real estate worksheet, and it's going to lay out an estimate of every cost that's going to be involved with the deal, including some estimates on what if they have to paint their walls? What if you have to put a new floor down? So, you know, because some spaces you go into might need new flooring or it might need to have the walls painted. Now, again, we try and get the landlord to do that, but we'll put in a number just assuming in the event you really love this space, but you're going to have to do that work. Sometimes there's a wall to be knocked down or, you know, things of that nature, but those would be the only additional added costs for you. We don't do any general contractor work. So the only thing we do is when we're ready to build your store, we send our setup supervisor to you. He hires labor, and then we back the truck up and we start unloading everything and we build your store. All the fixtures, we hook up all the equipment, and everything's ready to go. But we don't knock down walls. We don't build walls. We don't put in extra electrical outlets or lighting. those are things that you have to do. But again, if that number becomes too high, then we look at another location. Or what we try and do is we try and get the landlord to do the work. If they say no, we ask the landlord for an allowance, and that means you would do the work, but then they would pay you back a certain amount. And if they say no to that, then we say, hey, Joe, would you're going to have to spend about $5,000-6,000 to get the space ready. Do you want to do this, or you want to look at something else? So that's kind of how that works. Any other quick questions before I move on?
What's the average cost of rent a month?
Well, that's impossible to tell you. I mean, because everybody's in a different location. I mean, Dallas is going to be a lot different, probably from I don't know, Midlothian, Texas. I just it's surprising because there are places right now like Austin, where the rents in Austin are almost as expensive as some of the areas in Washington, D.C., but the people is a quarter of the amount of people. Now, what I'm going to get into in a little bit is what we're dealing with right now with this situation that we're all living in has really made a big difference for us negotiating. Now, before I get into that, it's really important to let you folks know that one of the beauties, as I was talking about this business and how it's great because it's service-oriented, you only work 5.5 days a week. Well, the other nice thing is that our stores are essential. They've all remained open, and almost across the board with all the stores I've talked to, everybody is doing better, with some stores seeing as much as a 50% increase in traffic. Now, why is that? Because everybody's working from home. So everybody doesn't have a printer. Everybody doesn't have a copy machine that they can make copies. People need notary. The banks have been closed. I mean, so our stores have been seeing a huge increase in business since this has started. People need laminated menus and paper menus now. People need signs to let everybody know they're open. I mean, we had a guy today who just did he did a bunch of banners and a lawn sign for his son's graduation, because there's not going to be any graduation. So they're doing a big party at the house, I mean, among the family, but they got like the banner and they got lawn signs with balloons. So there's so many different things that our stores provide that people need today because they don't have access to their offices, or they don't have access to things that they need, banks and things of that nature. So the good news is that while I'm telling you all this, a lot of people might be thinking, well, this isn't the right time to open a retail store. But this particular industry, it is a great time. And if you look at UPS or FedEx, I mean, their shipments are way up. I mean, look, everybody's ordering online. So it's really made a big difference with our stores and their revenue. So getting back, though, to the question, if a lot of you, I don't know if you know, we also open dollar stores, party stores, and a couple other concepts. But if you were opening a dollar store, probably $15, $20, depending on the area you're in, per square foot is the maximum we could pay. Now, for those of you on the West Coast, that's yearly. $15 would be like $1.25 to the West Coast people because they do it monthly. But if you're at $15, $20, that's probably the max on a dollar store we'd want to pay. The mailbox stores, because like I mentioned earlier, run on about a 65% profit margin, you have more room to pay a higher rent. So for me, what I look at is, depending on the area, let's say a typical, area outside of Dallas, outside of Atlanta, those kinds of markets, anything above about $3,000 a month, it raises a red flag for me to really start to scrutinize the location before we present it to you. But for us, we're pretty comfortable with anything in the $2,500 range. And then if you get below $2,000, we don't even really have to think twice about that. But again, it depends on your market. So what I do want to tell you with respect to our real estate is we have, and I've been in the business a long time. When I came here, there was a software program we offer we use it every day, but the clients can get into it, and it's really an amazing program. I've been trying to get the owner of the company to take this out to real estate companies around the world and use it. But the way it works is that once you get into the real estate department, you're going to get a username and password. And you're going to go into our software. It's called Easy Track. And every day you'll check to see if we put up a new location. So you're going to click on the real estate tab, and it's going to bring up all of the properties in your area that have been approved by myself and the owner to go ahead and list for you to review. Okay, so I'm on the real estate tab right now on my computer, and I'm looking, and this person has 21 sites, which is a lot. Wow, there's a lot of sites. Usually we're in the 5 to 10 range, but each one of the sites, you can click on it, and once you click on that location, you're going to have an option to look at a number of different things for that shopping center. Okay, so as an example, you're going to be able to go to the demographics, click on the demographics, and it'll show you all the people, the incomes, everything within the 1, 3, and 5 mile range. Okay, so you'll have all that information in front of you. Then it's going to list the economics of that location. It's going to tell you how big it is, what the asking rent is. It'll tell you any additional rent. And then you're going to have the option of looking at the site. And you can see exactly where in the shopping center you're going to be. You can see who the other tenants are. Then you'll have the option of looking at an aerial. And the aerial is key because you can see where the homes are, where the highways are. We have things called natural boundaries. So, something like a golf course, a highway, a river, a bridge, those are going to cut off. So even though the 3 mile radius might show you have 50,000 people, if you've got a golf course or a river in between you, you're not picking up that other side, realistically. So that's why those things are important. We're going to have a competition map, and that's really, really one of the most important features here to look at when you're looking at your real estate. So I'm looking at this one location. It shows that there's another FedEx authorized ship center 2.5 miles away. There's a UPS store 5 miles away. And there's another FedEx store 3 miles away. So we've got all of these locations targeted here. We let you know exactly how far away they are, what road they're on, all those kinds of things. So, we could have a UPS store that's 2 miles away, but it's on another road, 3 blocks over another main road, not on the road you're on. So we might not look at that as much as competition. We look at the housing communities around where your location is, and we say, okay, are these people currently going to that competitor, and can you pick them up? So all of this information is going to be available to you with just a click. And that's one of the really amazing things about our software is because, you guys are going to make the ultimate decision, and your market area better than we do. Now, there's a lot of market areas we've done a lot of work in and we know them, but you're going to know the traffic patterns. You're going to know the shopping center. Is it a high-end shopping center, a lower-end shopping center? Does it die off after 6 o'clock, or is it busy till 9? Those kinds of things, are things that you're going to have to explore yourself. But again, you'll have all these tools available to you in our software. Again, it even shows you additional charges. Just kind of as a note, whenever you get quoted by a landlord, he's only quoting you the minimum rent. Okay, so the next question is, what are the extras? There's a couple different names for it: extras, triple nets we call them, or common area fees, for example. But basically, it makes up the common area cost. That's everything from trash removal to snow removal. The taxes, not your taxes, but the taxes the landlord pays on the property, those get broken up pro rata share, the tenants pay them, and the insurance. So like this one center I'm looking at here, it's got a really cheap rent. It's only $12 a square foot, but then I can see that the extras are $6. So the extra charges are almost half, or they're 50% of the rent. So that's why a lot of times it's deceiving. You have to know the right questions to ask the landlord. I had a guy call me, and we go through this all the time, and he said, I just got a bill for $389 from the landlord. What is that for? And it was for his extra fees on top of his rent. Now, of course, we explain this, 10 times over in class and all through this, but a lot of times there's so much information you're absorbing that people forget. But once he heard what it was for, he realized it and remembered that we had told him about that. But, there's a lot of different things that, again, that you have to understand what you're paying for and make sure that, you're getting some free rent is another thing that is really key for us. So typically we try and get all of our customers anywhere from 3 to 4 months free rent. And what that means is that you won't have to pay any rent. So from the day you get the key, that's when your free rent starts. But you're probably going to have to do a little work, maybe paint the walls, let's say. And then we're going to come and we're going to build your store. It only takes us 1 week to build your store. We're like, those television shows like Restaurant Makeover, because that's all our guys do. They just build these stores and nothing else. So we get in there, and again, I want to let you folks know that everything is done in the store. Everything's talking to each other. The computer's talking to the copier and the printer, and all of your barcodes are on all your product and in the POS. So everything's ready to go. And we try and get you open as quick as possible, so that way we can take advantage of the free rent. So if it takes us 3 weeks to a month from the day you get your key, but we got you 90 to 120 days free rent, then you're going to wind up with another 2 to 3 months of not having to pay rent, and you can build your business and spend money on marketing during that time. So there's a lot of different things that we look for when we're looking for real estate. And again, most of them are the obvious things, but like, competition, like we talked about, and who is your anchor tenant? So an anchor tenant is a big store that's in the shopping center. My preference is to be near a supermarket. Okay, well, why is that? Well, the average supermarket does about 25,000 customers a week. So if you open up a store next to a supermarket that's doing that kind of volume, you've got to realize that you've got 25,000 people that are automatically going to know you're open, and they're already out of their car going into the supermarket, and there's a good chance you're going to pick up a number of those people. Now, that doesn't mean to say that if we put you in a small little strip center with Bank of America, Subway, and a nail salon that's got great road visibility, that doesn't mean to say that's not a good location either. But it will take you a little longer to build your business in that location than it would being next to a supermarket. The trade-off, of course, is that typically to be near that supermarket, you're going to pay a little bit more money. So these are all the kinds of things that we've got your back. We're looking out for your best interest, and we're really negotiating a very, very almost ridiculous deal. A lot of landlords hate dealing with us because we come in with just, really low numbers based on what they're quoting. So a lot of people try and beat us up. We try and beat them up, so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, you're going to make the call. And we're going to let you know if we feel comfortable with it. So you might say, Garrett, I really love this center. It's right next to my house, a mile away. It's only 2 miles from my kids' daycare. You're going to give me all these reasons you love this property. And I'm going to say, well, that's all great. But just remember, the rent is $3,500 a month, and you really need to work hard to be able to pay that rent and build your business. So if I really don't feel comfortable, let's say there's too many competitors near you, the rent is high, I don't feel comfortable, I'll have you sign, it's called a do not recommend letter, because I don't want to be held liable for putting you in a location that's super expensive, and next thing you know, you can't pay your rent, and you come back and say, well, you guys told me this was a good spot. So we try and show you a little bit of the good and the bad, but we need you to try and sell us on, hey, this is why this spot, I know it's a little expensive, but this is why I know we're going to do good here. You know, so it kind of works like that as well, where you have to maybe educate us a little on a location if I'm telling you I don't feel comfortable with it. Now, the other side of that is that you guys also have to remember that, you know, you hear the term location, location, location. But I can tell you, and I want to be clear to everybody on this call, that this isn't a typical retail store like we do the dollar stores I told you. Now, you have to do marketing. Of course, marketing is key. But with a dollar store, you can open up your door, and you can be behind the register and send out your marketing flyers, and that's really all you're doing all day and hoping customers come in and serve them. But with this business, you have to think of it as a business-to-business business. So you have to go out there or pick up that phone every day and be on the phone calling the law firms, the auto dealerships, the hotels, the hospitals, letting people know that you're open and trying to get their business. Because you don't just sit there and wait for people to come in the door. And I tell everybody, unless you're a celebrity chef, there's not going to be a line at your door. So there is a little bit of business-to-business work that you have to do with this type of store. You can't just open your door and wait for people to walk in and think that that's how you're going to, you know, knock it out of the ballpark. And the stores we have that are doing phenomenal, these are people who are literally started doing their marketing and their campaigning before they even open their door. And I kind of know who they are, and I can tell who's going to be successful, and I can tell the people who this probably wasn't right for to make this decision. But sometimes you get surprised. So it's not for me to call that shot. You know, our job is to give you the best information we can provide, try and get you the best deal on real estate, and try and train you as well as possible. But then you're on your own. And while we're there, if you need a little help, how do I do this, or can you help me with that? We can steer you in the right direction. But again, we're not a franchise. We don't keep track of how much you're making. And if you're not doing well, I'm not going to be on the phone with you, knocking my head up against the desk, trying to figure out how to do better and sending you stuff, because you're an independent store operator. You know, now we do help out throughout the year. Don't get me wrong. Like, I just sent a letter out to all of our stores, and it was a draft letter to all the landlords that you could take. You would be able to fill in your name and your store location, send it to your landlord, and it's saying, due to the current situation and the shutdown, we would like rent relief. We've had some stores that landlords have agreed to give them 100% free rent until their state is reopened, even though they're open. Remember, all our stores are open, but they're still agreeing to it. And then we have other stores, one store that only got 20%, but he's in Long Island and he had a very high rent of $3,600 a month. So he got about $600 off, and for him that was great. You know, so there are things we do throughout the year. We're looking, like I said, we have your back, but we're not there holding your hand, trying to tell you, you know, making calls for you and letting you know how to drum up business. Where we give you ideas and hope you can work on them. We give you other stores to talk to, things of that nature, so you can have help and have assistance in case you feel like you need it. So, you know, so that's kind of pretty much what really this session was about. Right now, again, landlords are desperate. They're very scared with the market, like many people are. So what we're seeing is landlords who maybe didn't return our calls in the past are now not only taking our calls, but they're, you know, bending over backwards to make a deal with us because they're so excited to be signing a lease right now. There's not many businesses out there that are essential that shopping center owners are making deals with. So, you know, this is a really great time. While people think otherwise, it's a phenomenal time for us to go in and negotiate with the landlord and beat them up for you to get a great deal. Now, with that being said, we're also doing things where we want 90 days free rent from the time the state reopens, or we want 120 days free rent from that day. So there's all extra things we're getting out of the landlords now that we weren't getting before. So what's important for you guys to know, because we're going really fast and we're talking about real estate now, is that unless you sign a letter of intent, your $500 is fully refundable that you gave us. And unless you sign a lease, you can get out of this deal anytime you want. You can say, we changed our mind. Okay, so once a letter of intent is signed off on, that's when, your $500 deposit goes hard. But other than that, unless you sign a lease, you're not committed to anything. So all of you could say right now, okay, you know what, let's do this. We'll have you in real estate Friday or Monday. If let's say you did it tomorrow morning, we'd have you in real estate right away. We'd see what kind of pre-qualification we could get you if you are looking for financing. And then once they approve it or tell you what you have to do to get it, at that point, then we would put you in real estate. And real estate could take 3 weeks. It could take 2 months before we find a location and negotiate a deal that's good for you. Now, if for those of you who know what Publix supermarket is, we do deals in a lot of Publix locations. We love Publix as a co-tenant. We hate Publix as a landlord. It's a big company, a lot of red tape. Getting the deal approved with the Publix location could take 2 months. So whereas a local landlord, it might only take 2 weeks. So all those things will come into play, but it's just important for all of you to know that you can really kick the tires here. And until you got a lease in front of you that is ready for your signature, there's no commitment at all on your part. So I think I covered most of what this seminar was about, and I'd be glad to open the floor now to any questions any of you folks might have.
So can you explain the $500 again? So if you pay the $500 now, we can get it locks us in, right?
No, well, so no, it doesn't lock you in. What the reason for the $500 is because we do a lot of work once you come in the house. We've got my finance department has to spend time getting some paperwork done with you. Real estate spends a lot of time. So what it does is it just shows good faith that you're serious about doing this. We get about 100 leads a week for this division, and there's no way we could just say to everybody, yeah, sure, we'll just throw you in real estate and let's start looking around, because everybody would take advantage of that. So it really makes a difference between who's just out there kicking tires and who's actually serious about maybe, doing this. So that's the only purpose of the 500. At one point, years ago, this company used to do $5,000. And if you look at, for those of you who maybe explored any franchise, some franchises are $25,000, $35,000. So for us, we feel comfortable doing a little bit of work right away to see if we can't get you financed. That's the most important thing for starters. So once we know if we get you financed, then we can spend more time, and it's more money on our part. But nothing comes out of your pocket other than that $500 until you commit to a lease, and then I'll send you out what's called a purchase agreement, and it lays out all the things that we're going to be doing for you, all of the equipment you're going to be getting, all of the fixtures you're going to be getting. It puts everything in black and white, and then once the lease is signed and the purchase agreement is signed, at that point, you have to make a payment. Now, if you're getting financing, we wait till the funds are available, and then you make your payment, and then we set up a build-out date and your training, and that's how that works. But again, anytime you decide you want to, not interested in moving forward, or something came up in in your life that you can't do this right now, then you just say to your salesperson, hey, I can't do this now. This just happened, and we put it back on your card within 3 to 5 business days. Any other questions?
I have one question. The product that is in the stores, is that regulated by you? Are we allowed to bring in whatever we want?
So a good question, because that's really important. So we are going to provide you with, depending on the package you buy, anywhere from 5 to $10,000 worth of merchandise. It's wholesale merchandise, and you're going to resell it at retail. That's basically boxes, bubble wrap, tape, locks, tie-downs, things that are more associated with moving and shipping, envelopes, things of that nature. However, we actually, as part of your fixture package, you're getting a table that's, have you ever seen those 3-tier tables at a retail store? They'll have like jeans on the first level, T-shirts on the second level, and maybe some accessories on the top. So we give everybody one of those tables in the store because we encourage you to bring in some things that would work in your market. So as an example, we have a store up in Wisconsin. He's near a bunch of lakes. Well, he decided to bring in live bait and tackle. And he does phenomenal with it. And he's a stop off. He's got the signs on the road. And so that's his retail product that he sells out of his store. We have a store in Maryland who's doing unbelievable, $3,000 a month selling CBD oil. So we have another store that is near Fort Bragg, and they put together, two sisters, they put together these gift packages that has like Army keychain, Army hat, like all these different things, whether it's a Marine Corps first responder stuff, but they put it all in a basket to give as a gift. So we encourage you to go out to maybe a gift show or to even a flea market or farmer's market and maybe find some items that you think would sell well in your store. And one of the things, and I don't want to get onto this topic too much because it's a whole other topic, but over the last year and a half, 2 years, we've been pushing printing in these stores. So if any of you walk into a FedEx office, you'll know that they have a huge print business. Well, our stores that have brought in printing into the stores, and we have a print package that you can add to the value package, or the printing comes with the standard and the premium package. But the stores that have added printing, most of them are seeing a return on their investment within about 6 to 9 months, whereas a typical store without printing, you're probably looking at a year to a year and a half to 2 years to see a return on your investment. So the people who have brought printing in are really seeing a much bigger, generating much bigger numbers. But those of you who don't have the funds to bring in the printing right now, then we have a third-party printer we hook you up with that's a wholesaler. So it's like a Vista print, except it's a wholesaler, so you can offer your customers the same way UPS store does. 90% of the UPS stores don't have printing in them, but they have a little print station, and you would go up there and order off of the computer. Well, that same wholesaler they use, we use them for our stores. So while we encourage printing and it helps business a lot, if you don't have the funds to bring in the printing at first, then you're going to be working with a third-party printer. So you'll still be able to offer those items.
If we bring in a printer, can you bring in a printer later?
Of course.
For the same
of
price?
course. Now,
for the same
you can now, and a lot of people even say, well, I can go out and buy that large format printer online for half the price. But just like our store, you could probably build one of these stores for, 35, 40 grand maybe. But it's going to take you a lot longer than a week to build it. I can tell that. You're going to make a lot of mistakes along the way. You're not going to have a big company behind you. So the same thing with printing. You can go out and buy everything I'm going to sell you in our print package for probably half the price. However, you're not going to get our print company who is giving you lifetime support the way we are. And you can pick up the phone and call them anytime there's any issue. They're going to train you on the printer. And most importantly, and again, I don't want to get into this today, but the printer we use, he's local to us here in Las Vegas. He has a proprietary software program. So you can walk up to a touchscreen monitor that we provide with that package, and you're going to click on Business Print Center, click here to begin, and you'll hit an icon and it'll say, what is your print job? And it'll say banners, photographs, signs, whatever it might be, and I'm going to push banners. And then it's going to say, what is the occasion? Birthday, anniversary, whatever it might be. It'll give you a bunch of choices. I'm going to push birthday. And then it's going to say, do you have your own template, or would you like to use one of ours? So I'm going to say, I want to use one of yours, and I can scroll through maybe 80 to 100 templates and click on them, and it'll show me what it'll look like on the banner that I selected the size. And then I can put my text in, change the color. I can do everything. And again, we'll get into that more, but it's super easy when the customer's done doing it, or if he needs your help, you do it with them. But it prints out a job number. You take that job number over to the printer, you put it into the printer, and the printer prints out that print job after the person's paid you. So these things are why people come to us. You know, why do you buy a franchise? Because you know that they're going to be there to support you. Well, the beauty of us is we're not a franchise, but we're still here to support you. Except we don't take royalties and we don't take marketing fees. You know, that's all yours. Now, one other thing I want to just mention, and for those of you who maybe think about it, I like to talk about this just as an example to people, is that if I was to want to buy a franchise, franchises are really key with food, because if I'm going down the street and I see, Sally's sandwiches and subs, I have no idea what that tastes like. I don't know if that place is clean or dirty or what the deal is in there. So I might not stop there more than likely. But I would stop at a Subway because I know exactly what I'm getting. I know that it's a clean place. So there is some value, a lot of value actually, in that type of franchise when it comes to food. But when it comes to mail-in and shipping, why does it matter if it's Sally's mail and print? I don't care. What I care about is FedEx coming to get my mail. Is the USPS coming to get my package? And they are. So that's all that matters to me. So why pay that extra money for a franchise when people don't care? You're going to have a FedEx sign in your window. You know what I'm saying? So why do you need to have the UPS sign on the top of your store? What's the difference between that and having it in the window? The difference is about $100,000 that it's going to cost you to have a franchise. So, so I just kind of wanted to throw that in because it is really important to think about and when you're looking at a franchise. And you want to be properly trained, and we do that as well. So that was a really long answer to your question as I got into a couple other things, but no,
that was great. I just have one more question. What prevents, say, somebody like me 2 miles away wants to do the same thing I'm doing? How does that work? What if she wants to open up a store just like mine 2 miles away?
Within our company, we respectfully, now this isn't set in stone and we don't agree to this, but we respectfully wouldn't put a store within 3 to 5 miles of another one of our stores, okay? However, the only rule of thumb that is set in stone is FedEx. FedEx will not let another FedEx within a mile of an authorized ship center. Now, that doesn't apply to FedEx office. That only applies to an independent store that has FedEx. So we can't put a store within another mile of an independent with FedEx. But 2 miles away, anything goes. So there's nothing to prevent that store. That is a possibility. But, it's the same thing with any type of retail. If you were to open a Subway, who's to prevent someone else from opening a sandwich shop that's Jimmy John's down the street? So unfortunately, we can't give any guarantees on that. But we want to put you in the premier property, hopefully, with a good rent. And, if you're a great operator, you'll keep your customer base. That's really, all I can tell you about that, but there's no guarantee on that.
Okay, thank
you. Any other questions?
Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Hey, good. So what is your thought? I know a lot of towns you're mentioning, I think are kind of spread out and not the a number of people. I live in South Los Angeles. What is your take on the saturation of these types of stores in LA? My wife's been wanting to do this for a really long time, and she just got me on board to kind of try to support her with it. But when I drive around, to me, they're like 7-Elevens now. They're on every corner in Los Angeles. What is your experience, if any, out here as far as starting something like that from scratch and, you know, the realistic option of making it?
Yeah, so I have a store that we did in LA, and this is a guy who, you know, he was he was a guy who's just a flashy guy, right? So he wanted to have the biggest and the best store in LA. And I was like, okay, sure, you know, whatever you want, Anthony, let me know, you know. So he goes, I want 4 sets of mailboxes. And I said, well, Anthony, the location we're looking at has, it has, hold on, I'll tell you, I'm looking at it right now. He has 6 competitors in 3 miles.
Exactly.
Okay. So I said, Anthony, there's no reason to spend an extra almost $4,000 on another set of mailboxes. You got 4 competitors. I don't care. I want to be, when people walk in, I want people to see that we're a mailbox store. So sure enough, 4 sets of mailboxes, which equals over 500 mailboxes. Plus he has 4 television sets in the store. And, you know, he just had to be the biggest and the best. And I actually told him, you know, you don't need, let's go with 2. And then, no, it didn't matter. So anyway, to make a long story short, I talked to him last about 9 months ago. He's been open for a little under 2 years. And he had when I talked to him, he had 171 mailboxes rented, generating $4,200 a month in rent. His rent was $3,000 a month, and his general manager is $1,400 a month. So he's just $200 a month, and I'm sure it's covered already now. But back then, he was just $200 short a month of paying his entire rent and paying his manager every month just off of his mailboxes that were rented.
Right.
So, but again, it's all about the operator when you get down to these areas where there's competition. You know, you have to be on that phone. You have to be calling other businesses. You have to be sending out your marketing information. We show you how to do a lot of that. We even show you how to do direct mail marketing so you can offer it to other people. Okay, but when you get into LA, you definitely have to go with the print package. And I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things I didn't mention is, why is the print package so key? Well, one of the reasons it's so key is because with a typical store, you're only going to generate business in LA from about a 2-mile radius.
Right.
Okay, nobody in LA is coming 3 miles to go to one of your stores, because they're going to pass 4 of them on the way, right? So, but however, if you have printing, such as our store in Carmel, California, their biggest account that generates over $60,000 in print business a year is UCLA. And you probably have a better idea of how far Carmel is from UCLA, but I think it's about 250 miles.
Yes.
So the point is you could be up in San Francisco at a restaurant. You could ask for the owner or manager and say, you know, how you doing? You know, my name is Bill, and I own a print store. I noticed your banner out front is beaten up, or your menus look like, you know, I'd love to take a shot at putting some new menu. You know, you can generate business, print business anywhere you are. And that's one of the big things about printing. So my stores that are going into urban areas where there's a lot of competition, I do tell them very critical that you should have printing. And then the other thing is you want to go into that store and see, are they polite? How does the store look? Do they run a good business? Are their mailboxes all full? Those kinds of things will tell you a lot about whether the location 2 miles away would make sense. Go to their Yelp page. How are their Yelp reviews? You know, we get into all that with you, but those are things that the micro demographics, almost, let's call them, that we focus on.
Right.
And then, of course, you know, look, the rent is going to be critical in that situation, right? What your monthly rent is going to be. But, you know, you could have a store that's 2 miles away, like I said earlier, but they're across on the other side of the golf course, or they're on another major road, and you're on the major road with the hospital and 2 schools, and they're on the major road with just, you know, the homes. So all these things we look at and we take into account.
Yeah, that's always been one of my things with her is because I work in downtown LA in a high rise. And if we could find a location in downtown, you know, it's just the number of people that are down there is unreal. So.
Yeah, and look, the rent's going to be a little higher down there, but, you know, right. I know downtown LA usually closes, it gets quiet after rush hour, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
You know, so again, that's a nice thing about this business because most of our stores close at 6:30 at the latest.
Right.
You know, so it's not like a regular retail. Like, you know, if you were to open a clothing store, you might not want to go into downtown LA. You know, imagine what it's like.
The thing about downtown right now is they're building residential apartments on every corner. They're building high-rise apartments everywhere.
Yeah, and that's great. So again, we have a lot of stores that open because they're going into a growth area. So like we have a store that just opened. As a matter of fact, let me just see so I don't get the name wrong. She just opened. Let me see if I have this here. I don't know. It's not coming up. I think it's called Midlothian, Texas. And the population in 5 miles is like 8,000 people. And the rent was pretty expensive. It was like $25 a foot because it was new construction. But the reason she loved the area is because of the new construction. You know, they're building schools, they're building shopping centers. So she sees the growth, and that's why she wanted to be there. So again, if you see an area where they're starting to, like take a urban area and they're starting to, renovate things and put in apartments and things of that nature, that's a great time to get in there. And look, everybody's been listening to the news and the radio. There's a lot of businesses that are not going to have a lot of their employees come back, and working out of the home is going to, increase 100-fold after this thing is all over. A lot of people are just going to continue working from home. So our number one customer is somebody who works from home. And that's really key, are people who work out of the house.
People that sell on eBay.
Yeah, well, look, one of the things that we do is our stores only get $1 for a drop-off. So if someone comes in and they've already printed out the label, let's say they do have an eBay business, and at home they have the label printer, they're just walking in your store and they're going, hey, Bob, I want to drop this off. And you're like, okay, well, have a good day. Take it easy. And you grab the box. You just put it on the side. You click it, you zap it in with the machine. You put it on the side, and it just sits there. And then UPS or whoever it is comes and picks it up from you, and you get $1. That's all you get for that. However, we have stores that average 200 to 300 drop-offs a day, with some stores that have, on certain days like holidays and stuff, and even right now are doing as many as 500 drop-offs a day. So if you're getting that many drop-offs every day, that's $1 a drop-off. I mean, you could be making $300-400 a day easy just in drop-offs once your store is 2 to 3 years old.
I have a question for the drop. So, for example, like you're saying, for the drop-off, or for having the printing available, and living and working in a overly populated area like what my husband was just speaking of, is it beneficial to stay open later for to have the high school customers, the parents that get off of work and all of a sudden have to have, help their kid print a project, and all those different that would actually benefit local families to stay open later?
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I've been asked the question a lot, and again, it's your store, so you make that decision. We have a couple stores that.
Is it a smart decision?
Is it what?
Financially, to look at your to be able to compare your overhead.
It is, because remember, but most of our stores are owner operated. I mean, we do have stores that are purchased by someone as an investment, and they have other people operate them. But basically, it's owner operated. So what is it? It's just your time. And we have I have a store that just opened in Alexandria, Virginia. His rent's $55 a square foot. That's huge. But he decided he used to be a hotel manager, So he said, I'm used to working 7 days a week. Why should I close on Sundays? I said, his name's Suresh. I go, Suresh, you don't have to close on Sundays. If you want to stay open on Sundays. So he does. He I don't know if he still is, but when I talked to him last, he was open Sundays. So, you can play that, by ear and see what works for you. But you can open earlier, you can close later. But again, most of the stores I see are at 6 to 6:30, and then Saturdays they're 2 o'clock. A couple stores stay open till 4 on Saturdays.
It would just be the competitor would be like FedEx, Kinko, how they stay open. I think some of them 24 hours, some of them till midnight.
Yeah. So remember though, there is some level of competition there with FedEx, right? Being that printing is going to be some competition in FedEx packages, but there's a lot of stuff that you do that they don't do. They don't rent mailboxes. They don't have virtual mailboxes. They don't have DHL. They don't have USPS. They don't have notary, most of them. So there is some competition in FedEx as far as that goes, but basically there's a lot of things that you are going to be offering. And we're going to get into other things that our stores can offer. I know somebody asked a question about the retail products, but there's other, we call them additional revenue generators, that during class we talk to you about, and those include everything from fingerprints, doing a fingerprinting, to Department of Motor Vehicle registrations, to U-Haul, and there's a list of things that we'll discuss with you that you might want to look into bringing into your stores. I'm sorry?
No, great. Thank you. That's informative.
Yeah, we have a long list, and we'll go through those with you.
Okay.
Okay, and then one other thing, just FYI, is we also, all of our stores will be, we do your website. So each of our stores gets our website, and we actually have an IT department that manages all the websites. So they handle SEO and things like that. So you're not just out there floating in space on your own. Now, one other thing is, once you do make a deposit with us, if you feel comfortable, we can give you a store to visit if there's one close by, or we can give you a couple stores to call.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay, so so I know that's really important. Most people take advantage of that.
Yes, absolutely. And can you look up Torrance, California? I'm just curious of how many of these stores are in Torrance, because that's local to where we live.
Torrance?
Torrance or Rancho or Palos Verdes?
Yeah, so I think we have one store in Torrance. I don't have my open store list in front of me, but I believe we have a store there. But the best thing, the easiest way to do it, and again, if you heard me earlier, we provide you with all the competition maps as we look at locations of interest. But if you go to, all you have to do is Google Torrance, California, mailing and shipping. And when the map comes up, you can go to nearby and put in mailing and shipping. It'll show you all the stores in Torrance that are near you that do mailing and shipping. So it'll come up with the independent stores, UPS, FedEx. It'll give you everything. And again, we provide that with every location we present to you. You'll have that competition map showing exactly where they are, their address, and how many miles away they are from their location.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else, guys? Anybody else?
No, it sounds exciting. Thank you so much.
Okay, so again, if you have further interest and you want to get going and see if you can get pre-qualified for financing, just contact either Brent or Sean, and they can, get your file started with the deposit and then get you over into finance. Those of you who are going to finance a project on your own, we just need proof of funds, and then you'd immediately go into real estate, and we can start looking for you. And then I oversee everything. So once you get into finance and real estate, I kind of help you through along the way, but I really start to get involved once you're about to select the location that you really want. That's when I kind of step in and make sure that we're starting to dot all our I's and cross all our T's. Okay, so so thank you all so much. Everybody keep safe, and hopefully your cities and towns will start opening up here in the near future. But again, we can start doing this work as you know, as things sit right now, because again, it is considered an essential business.
That's awesome.
All right, so thank you all so much, and look forward to working with you.
Great
Thanks so
information.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.